Bom dia. I'm practicing my Portuguese. My name is 𝗙𝗅𝗍 𝗪𝗏. I'm the senior editor of Trade Desk. And if any of you guys have had McDonald's all-day breakfast at 7 p.m., this man right over here certainly played a role in bringing you that. But before we jump in, Ragy, please tell us about yourself and your company.
So my name is Ragy Thomas. I'm the founder of a company called Sprinklr. We work with large global brands like Microsoft and Siemens and Samsung and help them reach, engage, and listen to their customers in all social and messaging channels.
Very cool. And just so the audience knows, we're going to be taking questions at the end, and we want you to make our lives hard. So if you think of a really tough question to ask us, please ask us. That'll be coming up at the end. But real quick, tell us, how did you play a role in, Sprinklr, how did it play a role in bringing all-day breakfast to McDonald's?
Yeah, so I can't take any credit. Obviously, it is the technology. But McDonald's, as with many fast food companies, a few years ago was trying to figure out what their customers wanted from them so that they can grow their business. And we're trying to get into being more appealing for their customers. And so they did some focus groups and realized from the focus groups that, consumers all want to eat healthy, and this movement towards healthy food was what McDonald's needed to do back then. And so they introduced salads in their stores, and that did not go very well. Obviously, people weren't going to McDonald's to eat salads. And so they started looking at what people were asking for from social media, all the tweets, the posts, the blogs, the forums, and they realized that a lot of people were looking for breakfast stuff outside of breakfast hours. And so you imagine having a late party and trying to go home and you want to eat something, or lunchtime and you don't want to have something that is heavy. And they found this latent need from their customers, validated it, did some regression, understood that there was an opportunity here, and they launched it by reaching out to everybody who talked about breakfast outside of breakfast hours, and they sent them a message on the channel they were talking about it and said, hey, we've got an announcement for you next week. So the media picked up on it and said, hey, McDonald's, you probably need a new social media tool because you're replying to messages from 3 years ago. Sure enough, and they announced the product, and it reversed 14 quarters of store decline in share price.
That's so interesting that they were reaching out to people who tweeted at McDonald's 3 years ago, and that was part of the strategy to roll that out. For everyone in the audience, today we're talking about what does a unified customer experience like. That's a bit of a word salad, as I like to call it, and I want to jump into the social aspects. But what does that exactly mean when we're saying unified customer experience, in plain English?
Let's flip it around. This has happened to me so many times. I'm sure it's happened to you too. You get off a long flight, bad flight, and you get out and go, oh my God, I had the worst flight ever. And you tweet that out or post it on your platform of choice. And then as you walk out, you get a survey from United going, how was your flight? You get in an Uber, your driver's going, did you have a great flight? You show up at the hotel, the lobby, they go, I hope you had a great flight. And I'm like, I told 7 billion people I did not have a great flight. and the 3 or 4 companies that should have listened to it are the ones asking me. Unified customer experience management is the ability for companies and brands to listen to what their customers are saying, understand what it means, and then translate it so that they can take care of customers, they can market to them, and they can improve their products and services using that real-time voice of the customer.
Very interesting. And the way that I like to look at it is think about some of the brands that you engage with. You go to the store, sometimes you tweet at them, you email them, you call them. For most brands, all that stuff sits in different buckets. What we're starting to see now is brands are tearing down those walls so they can get a complete view of the customer, as they say. That's a very trendy thing. So how does social play a role in this unified customer experience?
Well, I'll bring it back to the consumer perspective. Where do we spend our time today? How much time are we spending on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Reddit and reading reviews before you buy stuff? How many of you buy anything on Amazon without reading a review? Would you buy something if there was a bad review? So social has become where we spend time. And so for brands and companies to reach you, find you where you are, they got to be on social. And they have to respond when you're talking to them. This is the same thing we did 40 years ago, 50 years ago with phone and direct mail, and email when it came out. Consumers moved to a new channel or figured out a better way to communicate. And companies have to then find the consumers where they are. So they have to do, phone marketing or email marketing or web marketing as consumers shift. And we're spending our time on social, and brands have to be on those channels to talk to us.
Ragy was really surprised when I told him I'm not on Facebook, but I'm on Reddit way more than I should be.
Hopefully on Twitter and other platforms.
So, we hear about this, like, get a complete view of the customer. It's something Sprinklr's talking about, but, Sprinklr's not the only one. There's a lot of companies that are talking about this. What the people in the audience may not know is it is very expensive. It takes time to integrate these solutions, and you also have to find the right people to integrate these solutions. So, there's a process to integrating these strategies. So I guess my question to you is that, like, given the cost and investment associated with getting this complete view of a customer, like, is that better than the status quo, than what people are experiencing today? Like what is the ROI on that?
The question is not of ROI in my mind. The question is, if you're doing business, can you afford not to be thinking about being more customer-centric? In every industry you take, the traditional old-time companies are being replaced by next-generation products and services that are so much more user-friendly, and companies who are winning are the ones that are more customer-centric. You look at Amazon, you look at Tesla. Like, who would have guessed that Tesla would be the most valuable car company?
They're a company that does no advertising, though, Tesla.
But amazing experience, which starts with the product. So experience is not just sales or marketing. It's holistically, how does the customer experience you? And that experience becomes your brand today. It's not what you advertised. 40 years ago, 30 years ago, a brand was what they advertise. Remember the Marlboro Man? It's a brand that's created through marketing and advertising. Today, brands are created by who they are. And who they are decided by the experiences that you get across everything. So if you take a large company, any company, take Microsoft or Google, take a wild guess on how many different business units like Microsoft or Google has. And most of them are independently billion-dollar companies.
What do you mean, real quick? I want just to clarify, like when you said how many different units Microsoft or Google has?
Business units.
Business
so
units.
If you think
like,
about Google, you got
Yeah.
YouTube, you got Google Apps, you got Search, you got hardware, you got Nest.
Yes.
And these are independent business units. You take Nike, you got Nike Running, Nike Basketball. You take Procter & Gamble, it's a house of brands. Any company that you can think of that is large and global is siloed mostly into business units, number one. Each one of those business units, how many countries do you think Google runs their search business in? Each business unit could be in somewhere between 20 and over 100 countries. In each country, they have to market and they have to do customer care and they have to listen to customers. In each country, for each business unit, for each function, they're probably doing that across 5, 10, 15 channels, like email and phone and Facebook and Twitter. You do the basic multiplication to understand how fragmented you and I appear to a large company. So you're sitting there getting pissed off at United Airlines or Microsoft or any brand that you can think of. They can't see you. They are the customer service agent who's answering your phone can see you, but that record is in that database. When you call on the, you email them in a different business unit, they can't see you. That's in the email platform. And so how can you ever become customer-centric if you don't have the ability to work together?
So basically what you're saying is that like getting that complete view of the customer is critical, especially when you have a bunch of houses of different brands, and it's not necessarily about the ROI, but you'll get to keep that customer in the long run.
Yeah, if you don't, you will lose to somebody who takes better care.
Can you give me an example of something where a brand made that pivot and put all of their brands under one umbrella, gave the complete view of the customer? Do you have an example of that?
Well, I'll give you a very personal example at Sprinklr. So before we had our digital care product, we were using a company called Zendesk for customer care. And we're 3,000 people now. And a few years ago when we introduced our digital care, we were probably like 1,500 employees. And then we were using Slack. I'm sure all of you use Slack, all of you know Zendesk. To communicate between teams, and my engineering team was using Jira for engineering, product management, issue resolution. So when we polled our customers 3 years ago, the number one reason customers were pissed off at Sprinklr was poor customer support. And so what was happening is you open a ticket as a Sprinklr customer, level 1 support, this is how most companies work. If it's a quick fix, level 1 support fixes it. They'll troubleshoot for maybe 2 hours, then they escalate to level 2 if they can't fix it. A day later, if they can't fix it, they go to level 3. 2 days later, if they can't fix it, they go to engineering. And we are a SaaS company that releases thousands of features every quarter. So support would go to engineering on Slack, and they would say, hey, my customer has got a problem. And I have 600 engineers who couldn't keep up with Slack looking through tickets to fix stuff. So we moved from Zendesk to Sprinklr, digital care, created queues for every product, and had our engineering leaders and engineering teams subscribe to those queues. So today when a ticket comes in, our artificial intelligence understands what product is it about. It understands whether it's going to get escalated based on previous tickets, and they would automatically put it into a product queue. And when an agent logs on, there's typically, faster than the agent can, there's an engineer on saying, oh, that's my code, I'll fix it next Saturday. Time to resolve issues at Sprinklr went down 70% when we were able to bring engineering and customer support together on the same platform. And you can't take the context of a ticket or a marketing campaign and try to put that into Slack or Teams or some other collaboration tool.
Very good. As promised, if anyone in the audience wants to make our lives difficult and has some hard questions to ask us, are there any questions?
I think we have a question on this.
Oh, there it is. Your example on a flight. How would it be possible for the hotel company you connect with to tweet to you? Would we need to give all of our social media to the hotel company? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. So you don't have to do anything. Twitter is public data. So what Sprinklr does is we have a partnership with Twitter. We are pulling in, well, we're literally pulling in all publicly available digital data. So that's the Twitter Firehose, That's the Reddit Firehose, that's blogs, forums, ratings, reviews, websites, anything that you choose to make public. Only the things in a GDPR compliant, only the things that you choose to make public are pulled into Sprinklr. And then we apply 8 layers of artificial intelligence on it to understand what are you talking about, break down long sentences into phrases, into subject and object and verb. So we understand what is it that you're saying. Then we're able to associate it with the brand if there are any keywords or product issues. And then we're able to get that to the brand. So it's your public data. You don't have to do anything. It's like you making a call. We'll just pull it, and we route it to the right brand, and we route it to the right agent at the brand.
Very good. This next one's from 𝗙𝗪𝗀, I hope I said your name right, CMO at 𝗙𝗪𝗀. Do brands forget the consumer and the strategy due to the pressure and urgency of being on all social media and reaching for the most digital touch points as they can?
That's an excellent question. I think I have to thank Tiago for helping sell Sprinklr and helping sell more Sprinklr. Most companies, if you just brute force and show up in social media, you're everywhere. And you're not able to differentiate what matters. And there's a lot of noise. So the right way to do that is to use, and the only way to do it, is to use artificial intelligence, because the data on social media is unstructured. It's text in over 100 languages, it's photos and it's videos. And so if you don't have the technology to understand what's more important than the rest, you're going to drown yourself in noise.
Very good. I believe we're out of time, but thank you so much for your time. And Ragy, thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.